Hey, Science 20s, time to talk about those pyramids. I said that were coming. So, the normal type of pyramid is a pyramid of energy and the pyramid of trophic levels, but we're going to look at some different types of pyramids in today's lesson. You guys are still working on that ecological project today, but I've made a Google form to test your knowledge about ecological pyramids. So, again, the three types we're going to look at are pyramids of numbers, pyramids of biomass, and then pyramids of energy. And I'm going to leave the pyramids of energy till last because it's probably the easiest to wrap your head around. Okay, now these pictures over to the right are pyramids of numbers. In normal food webs or food chains where you have a very small number of predators, a pyramid of numbers is going to look like a pyramid of energy. It'll have a much smaller point at the top and a much wider bottom. But if we take a look at, for example, a tree, your pyramids of numbers might look really, really weird because one single producer, a tree, or like a forest of giant trees, could support a much bigger middle part. Okay, so pyramid of numbers. They represent how many organisms are at a certain trophic level. Remember, trophic levels is the energy. And as you go up, the energy decreases. But also a second trophic level are your the consumers, and then you have predators as you go to the top. So you can see in the picture to the right here, at the top right, this tree that is supporting a large number of grasshoppers and insects, but the base is really small. So usually more energy is available to lower trophic levels, so there's way more producers. Like the bottom one, there's way more grass than there is hawks. Okay, so traditionally it does look like a normal pyramid, but in forest ecosystems, you can get a very weird looking pyramid that's tiny at the top and tiny at the bottom because huge producers like trees could sustain a ton of insects, an absolute ton of insects. Now, there's not going to be very many birds that feed off of those insects, but the middle part of the pyramid could be kind of like a bulge. Okay, so that's a pyramid of numbers. A little different. Okay, it's wanting to do this again. Okay. Next, we have a pyramid of biomass. And that represents how heavy, if you were to weigh all of the organisms in the one area, how heavy it would be per square meter. So biomass is basically the dry mass of all of the living organisms. It takes into the actual account of the size of the organisms. Okay, so energy does transfer as we go up, and even though a lynx weighs more than a blade of grass, if you were to weigh all of the blades of grass versus a lynx, you're going to wind up with a heavier amount of grass. I don't know if you've ever mowed a lawn before, and then you've collected the grass clippings. Even though it doesn't look like they have a lot of weight, you can fill up garbage bags that are way more than the weight of a lynx. There's also very few top-level predators, and even though they're larger in size, their weight is always smaller. So biomass is how heavy all of the organisms would be if you were to add them up. So some marine ecosystems, you can have more at the very bottom. So even though the bottom's usually the biggest and the heaviest, you can have, for example, zooplankton outweigh the phytoplankton. And that's just because probably some of the zooplankton, they have a really good digestive system, so they don't need to eat a lot of phytoplankton to get that energy. So marine systems don't follow the pyramid system, sometimes with biomass, but most other ones do. Okay, then we have an energy pyramid. And an energy pyramid always becomes very small at the top. That represents the total amount of energy that's transferred through each trophic level. And there is a significant amount of loss of energy. Okay, they're always upright because you can't have more energy in snakes than you have in the grass that the snakes have fed on the mice have fed on insects, and insects have fed on the grass or the flowers or whatever. That's known as the second law of thermodynamics. Energy is transferred from one form to the other. Most of that energy is lost as heat. And heat for mammalian systems is the heat that keeps us hot, right? It's how we regulate our temperature. Also, when you digest food, all of it doesn't get turned into energy. That's why everything poops, because you got to get rid of the stuff your body can't use. This is a good reason why that shows why food chains can't have more than 4 to 5 levels, because anything that might want to snack on a snake would have so little energy, it would be very, very, very dangerous for that animal if the snakes went away. So there's only a few ecosystems that have 5 trophic levels. And if you think historically back to the dinosaur times, the first dinosaurs that went extinct were the top huge predators that needed an incredible amount of energy from other big dinosaurs. Because if those other big dinosaurs, their numbers dropped, there wasn't enough energy in the top trophic level to feed them. Now, the amount of energy that's lost, if we look at it, we do lose a certain percentage of it, and that percentage can be quite random sometimes, but there's always going to be a loss of energy. Okay. Now, today's lesson is relatively short. Today's the last day you're going to be having class time to work on the ecology project. So I'll stop here. We're going to be looking at biochemical cycles on Thursday and Friday, and they're a little tricky, so it's going to take us Thursday and Friday to get through them. Make sure you try the Google form today that goes with the lesson. All right, thanks guys. Biology out.